Hello guys, today we're gonna have something really special because we're gonna be watching a match back from year 2013. It's How to Swarm expansion, a completely different game and two amazing players. Here we have HyuN, a nice Zerg player from South Korea. He used to be one of the greatest Zerg players in the world. Maybe not the same caliber and not the same level as Jaedong or Life or players that came after him like Dark or Rogue. Or players like even Cyril or Raynor, but he was still like super consistent, very interesting to follow. He was able to play pretty much any play style. I mostly remember him playing, stuff like micro games or mid-game pushes, but overall this was a very solid Zerg player with many top finishes in Premier tournaments and even Premier tournament wins as well. And his opponent is none other than MaNa, that's a Polish Zerg player who is still active, by the way, who's still playing StarCraft 2 at a competitive level. He has his own YouTube channel where he uploads, I think he uploads daily actually, and back in the old days he was playing for Mouse Esports, and he was probably in his prime in Wings of Liberty. Starting with How to Swarm, he was declining a bit in terms of results and just his overall skill level. Maybe he wasn't actually, but the competition just got much stronger during those times, and it just became a lot harder to play against such top players. But players aside, even though they are really cool players and they are both very much famous and accomplished, what's really interesting about this replay is the nostalgic feeling about this expansion, How to Swarm, because the game was just so much different. First of all, we have a completely different economy because you can see there are 24 workers per each base, which means that you can stay on 1, 2 or 3 bases much longer. And you can see here MaNa is trying to block the hatchery for HyuN. This is not gonna be like a game changer, but it's really annoying. HyuN now has to place his hatchery somewhere else. MaNa can be trying to actually block that hatchery as well, and this is gonna be like a real pain for blue Zerg player, and MaNa is doing exactly that. You might actually try to throw another pylon to do that, and this is going to be very annoying for the Zerg player, but links are coming, so it's not going to be that big of a deal in a couple of minutes. But anyway, so, and in How to Swarm, what was really important is that you need to secure 2 bases, and then you could actually play from 2 bases. You didn't really need to secure the 3rd base at all. Well, as a Zerg player you actually had to, but as for the other races you could only have 2 bases, and that would be enough of an economy to actually play something aggressive like timing pushes, or you could actually start building up from 2 bases, switch tags, and maybe then only get your 3rd expansion going. So it was really interesting. And here you can see that HyuN is going to be taking the 3rd base also very early, I suppose, because he was already slightly weakened by this aggression, microaggression from that probe on the MaNa side, and now he has to catch up a bit because he's a Zerg player, and Zerg players historically they usually need a better economy just in general. And here you can see also an old school build order that's no longer common for obvious reasons, because now we have completely different economy and build orders. You have a Forge Fast Expand, so Protoss players were required to play that way pretty much in this matchup. This was the only way to play that, because if you try to open with just gateways, you would find yourself struggling against links that would be just swarming on your side of the map. So it was a really big deal. So you had to open like this, you had to use that position, you had to wall off with a cybernetics core and use the Forge and 1 cannon to protect against any possible early aggression. So this was the best way to play this game, because Protoss just didn't have any other tools to defend. You didn't have shield batteries, and it was really difficult to play with just gateway units. So this was probably the best way to play. You also didn't have oracles at all, so there was no quick unit that you could get from a Stargate to just clear out Zerglings or anything on the map, and you also didn't really have enough scouting in the beginning. So the only way of scouting was just building a Stargate and going for a Phoenix. This was one way. It was actually very expensive, but normally you would just make 1 sentry and make a hallucinated Phoenix or just another unit and just go and see what's going on the Zerg side. So it was really difficult for the Protoss race as well. Just had no means of scouting, and this was, just a small problem and just a small characteristic of that time period. So far we have both players just expanding normally. It was very important to take a look at where the Protoss player is actually spending his Chronobus, because this would actually give you a very nice intel about what you should be doing. MaNa in this game is not building a mothership core. Mothership core was also another unit that was very much suitable for game defense and base defense in general, and that would have been really nice for him, but obviously you don't really need that early on unless you are facing some kind of cheese or all-in playstyle from another player. So that's why he's not building that, because this unit, even though it has an offensive potential, you can go around the map and just harass your opponent, it doesn't really deal that much damage and it's countered by queens, so there's just no point in building that unit very early on. And HyuN is just doing what every Zerg player was doing back in those old days. He's just trying to get 80 drones as quickly as possible without actually spending any money whatsoever on anything else. So this was the best playstyle for Zerg race. Pretty much nothing changed, to be honest. In Legacy Duo it is also the best playstyle, you should be just building stuff. And here we have the first Oracle. I think I was a bit mistaken with the Oracles. Yeah, actually, Oracles were probably already in the game by that point. I was actually confused by that. But yeah, other than that, nothing was really that cool. You didn't really have... the Oracles were also a bit different as far as I remember. They had like a different damage type, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, you can see they are arriving just a lot later on. So yeah, they were actually in the game. Sorry, my bad, because, you know, with time passing by, you just get everything messed up in your head. But yeah, the problem with Oracles was that you could use them for scouting, you could use them for revelation, and you could also detect clocked units. But the problem with the Oracles was that they just arrived so late that it was not the case for the majority of games. People were not really building them as much. Like in some games, maybe in some like matchups like PvT maybe. I don't remember about PvP that much, but in this matchup this was not really a common unit. So the fight starts here and the Oracle starts clearing the mineral line and does quite a bit of damage, but obviously it's not going to be enough, unfortunately, for the Protoss player, because, well, he's trying his best, but actually I think HyuN is going to be able to defend against that because the spores are about to complete. But this was still like a very nice attack by Protoss player, because you got 4 workers killed, not that much, but that's at least something. And MaNa keeps on building Phoenixes. Phoenixes, well, now you can actually play them. You can play mass Phoenixes and you can just have a nice extra combo with Disruptors or like any other units. But back in the old days this was actually a very expensive commitment, and now MaNa needs to do something else. So you can see he's building just a couple of Phoenixes, and now he's just trying to go for a robotics, and he's just trying to go with a lot of sentries as well. He needs to make maybe like 5 or 6 or 7 of them. And the thing with sentries was that you actually had no Ravagers in that game, and without Ravagers there was no way to break the force fields. So that's why you actually could use them even in the late game or in mid games. There was just no way to deal with them. Yes, Hydras, they have a nice range in this game. They have like 5 range at the moment, but there's gonna be another upgrade for the range. This one, Grooved Spines, that's gonna be used very soon. So yeah, Hydras can still shoot through the force fields because of that range, but, well, it's just not the same as if you have Ravagers and you can easily break in. But yeah, anything that can help Hydras obviously is gonna be a much better choice. And all those army compositions with just Roach and Hydras were actually a lot more common, and you would not really use Banelings in those times because, well, Protoss didn't have Disruptors, so there was not that many ways to deal AoE damage. Of course there were Colossi and there were High Templars, but at least you can evade and you can wait until your opponent has just no mana at all. And also, even if you catch a Side Storm, you still have time to just get away from that, right? But if you catch a Disruptor's Ball, then you're probably gonna be dead, right? I think almost every unit in the game dies from a Disruptor shot, maybe except for like Archons or like Thors and all other big units that, well, they are big for a reason, right? And they also cost a lot of money. So the first attack happens here. HyuN is trying to assault this third base. The third base is also very late by Legacy of the Void standards, but was actually pretty much normal in How to Do Swarm. It was a bit, of course, later for MaNa because he actually committed a lot into this Sky Army. Those Phoenixes they are now quite useless, to be honest, and here he's going for a scout. He sees the Spire, and Spire is gonna mean one thing. There's gonna be a ton of Corruptors in combination with Hydras and maybe some Roaches, but probably just Hydras and Corruptors, and some Links to just tank the damage, because Zealots were not as strong back in the old days, and you would normally have this army with mass Colossi, Stalkers, Sentries, and just the upgrades, and maybe just in the very late game you would add some additional units. And also the Void Rays. Void Ray was a very good unit in that expansion, because, well, Void Ray was just a hard counter for Corruptor. You were supposed to build them, and Void Rays would just be used to protect your Colossi. So HyuN at this point in this game has a very nice economy. He's pretty much at the full level of saturation, 80 workers at this time. He's still, you can see, has all those money at home, and the base is gonna expire only in a couple of minutes. In Legacy of the Void it would have been already empty, but in this game it's still possible, and you can see the Protoss player actually on the defense, he doesn't really need to expand. And the most interesting thing that HyuN is now adding Swarm Hosts. Swarm Hosts, they are pretty interesting, and you can also make this upgrade that increases the lifetime of Locust by 10 seconds. And the different part about Locusts here is that they are not flying as in Legacy of the Void, they are just actually moving on the ground, but they are spawning almost not like constantly, but you have enough time for them for one wave to arrive after another wave. So they're just there's just an endless stream of those small creatures, which can be really annoying. And with a proper number of swarm hosts, I think around 15 or 20, you just get such a number that the Protoss player just cannot break through that wall of 3 units, and the Protoss player just has to do something about that. Most of the time the game just drags out, and you just have this stalemate that could be really annoying. There was a famous match between MaNa and Firecake, where none of the players could actually break another one. So that was like an actual mess with the balance, and this was probably the reason why How to the Swarm was received negatively by so many players, because of that balance issue. And you can see those little locusts are just crawling on the ground, and they will be trying to assault this 4th base. MaNa now just needs to add more AoE damage. He only has 2 Colossi, or 3 Colossi actually, sorry, but that's still not enough to actually counter those Swarm Hosts. But MaNa is actually adding additional Stargates and Voiders, because he feels like this could have been Mutas, and Mutas were extremely popular and dangerous as well in this expansion, but he actually miscalculated, and I think he now understands that there's not gonna be Mutas arriving. He sees this Swarm Host for the first time in this game, and he's gonna be trying to assault that, but no, it's probably not gonna be possible to actually do. So it reads back, Time Warp has been casted, it slows down all the units in this green area, and now, yeah, you can use the Feeding Cyst to lift the Swarm Host. Actually a very nice thing as well, because Swarm Hosts, they are buried, and your opponent cannot see them unless he brings an observer, which is something that you need to do. And yeah, a bit of a miscontrol by HyuN. He's losing some of his units, but you can see he already has a very nice banker that's gonna be only expanding and getting bigger and bigger from now on, because he has 200 supply. And he can just trade with these 3 units for the course of this game. He should be adding some static defense though, because at this point HyuN doesn't really have anything in this position, which is not a really good thing. You would like to have some extra cannons, not the cannons, but spine crawlers, spore crawlers, and maybe even queens at the front lines just to tank this damage. And you can see that actually those locusts, they actually did pretty much the same damage as Hydra. So basically each Swarm Host just spawns 2 Hydralisks, well, 2 mini Hydralisks. They have free range, which is not really that great, but the damage is 14, and the Hydra has the same damage, and I think the DPS is almost the same. So yeah, MaNa is just slowly losing units, HyuN is chipping away at his opponent, and this can actually snowball pretty heavily in the late game, and MaNa just needs to make sure that he holds the ground. No batteries to heal the units, which is a big problem, right? If you start losing HP, you're gonna be losing your units very quickly, and HyuN is actually trying to target, I think, these units as well. Corruptors are flying in, just trying to engage here. Voiders have an active overcharge ability, which does extra damage against armored units, 6 extra damage for each Corruptor. This is gonna be a game changer in the future fight. And HyuN already has a very nice and established base defense here with spines, and maybe something on the main base as well. Yeah, 2 spines, 1 spore crawler, and now there are more and more Locust waves streaming in. It's gonna be a big problem for MaNa, but so far I think he's doing really well, because he expanded here in the north, now has a fully mining base. How much does he have actually? 77 probes, and HyuN has 66 drones because he understands that he doesn't really need that much mining in his actual army and actual fighting units. And the MaNa actually decides to try and get into this fight. He loses the Oracle, which was very important here to give this revelation and actually start fighting. And I think MaNa is just losing this engagement, to be honest. Like, this was a very poor attempt to start this engagement, and he probably just lost quite a bit more than HyuN. Yes, and you can see the resource loss tab in the left top corner. The difference is only 2k, which is not really that much, but still, again, it's a snowballing, and these are the 3 units that are just not really costing anything other than supply for HyuN. So MaNa needs to be extremely careful with this engagement if it's gonna be happening very, very soon, because at one point, obviously, as a Protoss player, you just need to assault this position, otherwise you're just gonna lose the game. And from HyuN's side, you can just expand, take more map and just take more bases and keep on doing what you're doing just right now. And you can see he already has a nice bank of 3,000 minerals and gas each, so this is a very nice position to be in. MaNa just trying to break in. He sees that there are just spores being built, and I think this is just the perfect timing to attack. While there are just not so many static defense, Raptors are just using their ability right now, and carefully MaNa is trying to approach that position. Really nice focus fire from the Void Race, trying to shoot the Raptors. Prismatic alignment is activated, and now this fight is just looking really nice for the Protoss player. He's trying to tank really well. The Colossi are shooting at everything here. The Locusts are not really doing that much damage, and the Void Race are now just making sure that all those wormholes are evaporating and no longer be a threat for these forces of MaNa. And the Protoss player is actually winning this engagement. This was really, really well done by MaNa. Almost 8,000 difference, right? It's very nice. Really, really cool engagement by this Protoss player. He's just trying to advance now, and he needs to strike deep, deliver this coup de grace, right? Because he can just destroy HyuN at this moment. HyuN is trying to rebuild. He's making leads, he's making corruptors, he's making infestors as well. And infestors were actually much better in the old times because they had infested Terrans, and also this fungal growth was much better as well. More damage dealing. It's really important. So yeah, HyuN is just trying to buy some time. He's just rebuilding because he basically lost all of his bank, but still a lot of infestors, and he can be using still all those infested Terrans that are just coming out of those infestors. And you can see a lot of shooting Terrans, and looks like HyuN barely has enough to actually counter that force. And I think MaNa just overextended quite a bit. Losing all of the Colossi in this engagement was not a really good choice of him, but on the other hand, HyuN also doesn't really have anything left, and there was just a small run by, I think, on the main base, rather on natural base, with one Dark Templar who got 17 kills, 17 workers. That's actually pretty big. HyuN is trying to rebuild. Just take a look at their units. HyuN has 47 probes, not the probes, drones, and MaNa is in his very nice, pretty much nice shape. He's adding High Templars, he's adding more Void Race, he's adding another Colossi, and HyuN is just really struggling to rebuild right now. He still has a full mining base here though, so he's technically on 3 bases still, because again, natural base still has some mining going on. Obviously main base is already exhausted, there is still some gas left though. But actually, yeah, HyuN can rebuild in this game. The problem though is that, is he gonna be able to do that in time, because MaNa is gonna be attacking very soon. He is already making this +3 upgrade on pretty much everything, on shields and on the air weapons as well. But what's really good about HyuN's army is that he's gonna be building Broodlords, and back in the old days, to deal with Broodlords you pretty much needed just Tempests. Tempests were really cool against that. They had a very nice range, but they were actually very costly as well. 200 gas, 300 supply, and Voiders would also do actually. Voiders were not that bad against Broodlords and Stalkers as well, but the problem with Stalkers is that there's going to be a lot of infested Terrans and a lot of potential infestors themselves with fungal growths. And the problem with Carriers was that you had Neural Parasite and infested Terrans in this amazing combo. And so HyuN needs to defend somehow. MaNa is just not really attacking him, and I don't really know why, because I think he had a nice window of opportunity to just go straight and get rid of HyuN in one single engagement. HyuN just doesn't have enough money, and now I think MaNa is probably going to be trying to do that. He just needs to clear those rocks and maybe go from the middle. Why not? I think it's like a really nice position to engage. You can always retreat back to all those sweet cannons, and just very nice spot in general. Is there a War Prism though? I think the War Prism on the main base would have been really cool as well. But no, I think just MaNa has enough forces to just overwhelm HyuN in one single engagement. There is just twice the army difference for him. It has a very nice advantage, and just gonna clear out this base once again. HyuN should be really wise and probably should not be trying to fight there because, well, just doesn't have really enough forces. He should be making a nice position here on the creep, and maybe he'll still have a chance in this game. Just one Dark Templar is gonna be a problem for him though, because there's just no Spore, no detection whatsoever. He's making Swarm Host, which is nice, but are they gonna be in time? And there's the feedback. Feedback is just gonna be destroying all those infestors, by the way, because the feedback was doing a lot of damage to all the casters in this game. But so far, nice microcontrol by HyuN with all those kiting and infestors. But the Protoss army keeps on advancing. But all the Templars are actually dead. But so are the Broodors and so are the base. There are only 2 Broodors left, and I think just the army of the Protoss is just too big, to be honest. And yeah, HyuN is doing a great job. Micro and the feedbacks are going, like 3 infestors are just being destroyed immediately in so many fungals, but I just don't feel that HyuN has enough. Yeah, infestors were pretty great in those expansions, in Wings of Liberty and Hollow Swarm, but actually not that great to counter the full army of Protoss player, 200 supply. And even though like MaNa lost quite a bit, he's remaking at home and HyuN just doesn't have anything left. So this is it for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed this old school game. It was really fun for me to cast and just watch as well, because I have so many nostalgic memories about all those expansions and Heart of the Swarm specifically, because I played through all of it pretty much. So this was really a pleasure for me as well. So that's it for today. Subscribe for more StarCraft content, old and new. Have a nice day and see you next time.